haven't been interacting with the chat room as much in the past few weeks in the past week. Um, so I'm gonna try here, and hopefully, I will have my moderators help me keep this civil. So I want to get back into the martial arts stuff I was talking about last week when I was talking about McDojos, and I wanted to go into it a little bit more, let people actually ask me questions about it instead of me just giving like a history of martial arts. So I made two videos last week. One of which I was saying that the history of martial arts is largely a lie. And then I did a second one in which I talked about the the uh the prevalence of McDojos, particularly in American martial arts, and how to spot them, how to spot McDojos, or what might be called Bullshido. What's up, Asia? Haven't seen you in a while. How you been? Just in my light, sorry. So, um, if you didn't see my title, like I said, this is ask me questions about martial arts as far as like fake martial arts or bad martial arts teaching, what's good versus bad, what's fake versus real martial arts, stuff like that. I'm doing well, thanks. So I don't know if you watched my videos last week, Asia, because I don't think I saw you in the chat, but I did like two videos. They were kind of funny, I think. So the first one I did was talking about the history of martial arts, and I said that um, by and large, a lot of the history we've been taught about martial arts is a lie, basically as a form of self promotion by a lot of these martial arts teachers to promote their arts. And I broke down a lot of different martial arts styles and parts of the world and explained why a lot of that stuff is just BS, which is something you will not hear from a lot of martial artists unless you go to like this guy named McDojo Life. He'll give you the real scoop on martial arts, and Sensei Icy Mike over at the Hard to Hurt channel. So, um, yeah. Uh, what's up, Marissa? So, um, so aside, so I did that that video last week, and then I did a follow up to that one, which was how to spot a McDojo. And I kind of went to pains to define a McDojo because it's not a clear and precise definition because a lot of different martial artists have different interpretations of what a McDojo is. But generally, it's a low quality place for martial arts instruction in the most general sense. So this is like the third part to those two videos from last week, where now I just want you guys to ask me any questions you might have about martial arts, and especially as it pertains to whether something is worth practicing or not, or if a certain style is real or not. Because I think I was a little bit dismissive with a few people last week when they were asking me questions, and um, not that I regret it, but I could have explained a little bit better to them why, instead of being so easily dismissive about what they were thinking. Um, so because I realized a lot of people have no experience in martial arts, so it was, yeah, it it might have been a little presumptuous to be so dismissive. I I guess because I'm assuming since martial arts literature has been online for the past 25 years, and there's like the ubiquity of martial arts books and magazines and videos and movies and TV shows, that it seems like people would be more informed about it, but not necessarily. not necessarily that's not necessarily the case, especially when it comes to specific styles. And again, as mentioned with the history of martial arts video I did, even people who are exposed to a lot of martial arts literature or a lot of martial arts content on in movies and TVs are frequently misinformed about that stuff because again, there's a lot of self promotion in these martial arts, so that they perpetuate a lot of misinformation about either how effective they are, their origins, what they actually do. So, um, guys, feel free to come in with any questions that you may have. So, I see quite a few people in the chat room. So, chat, ask me any questions you might have about martial arts. What are fake martial arts? What are good martial arts? What is a McDojo? What is Bushido? And I don't mean Bushido, like the code of the samurai sort of stuff, but what is Bushido, Bullshido, as in what is bullshit martial arts, Bushido. We say that in martial arts, we call it Bushido for like bad martial arts. There are some martial arts that are clear cut examples, just uh, prototypes that are par exemplar of of McDojos and Bushido. Then there's some that are in between. Like it depends on the context. And then there's others that are just straightforward, just effective arts on any level. So, like I said, you got the stuff that's in, but most of the stuff. So most of the stuff falls in between. And then again, you're gonna have a few clear cut examples of really effective things to do, and then you have really clear cut examples of things not to do. But most of the things are gonna fall in the middle. Um, So, guys, ask me questions. I know everyone's been exposed to some form of martial arts on TV or movies, or maybe known people who practice martial arts, um, or I don't know, or you read stuff, um, or pertaining to like certain health claims you might hear about things related to martial arts, stuff like that. But if no one has anything to contribute, I'll just say a few things, and then I'll go about my merry way and get off and go watch something before I fall asleep. Um, but I would greatly like to see some people ask questions and contribute to the chat, because, like I said, usually when in the past week when I have been doing like my conversations phil- uh, on philosophy papers, people will ask me stuff, and it's like, okay, when I ask for feedback from the chat, I don't get any. But then when I'm not trying to get feedback from the chat, that's when people come in and chime in, which is pretty ironic. Isn't it ironic? No, I'm just joking, but no, seriously. So yeah, I would like to hear opinions from the chat on that. Um, and if you have questions outside of martial arts, drop me a super chat or a super sticker, because I'm only talking about martial arts here, and particularly about what is fake martial arts versus what is good martial arts. But if you have questions outside of martial arts, drop it in a super chat or a super sticker, and I'll answer that. Okay, or drop a cash app in either of those three. Like if you want to ask me about the moon or something weird, like something completely irrelevant like that, then drop it in a super chat or a super sticker, and I'll answer that. But outside of dropping it in a super chat or a super sticker, then let's stick to the topic, which is McDojos and Bushido. Okay. And like I said, if I don't get feedback, I'll just go about my merry way. Because like I said, it's 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 kind of touch and go when I can get feedback from the chat, and when I'm not, it's usually when I don't want feedback from the chat that I get the most, and vice versa. When I do want it, zilch. So um, I don't know. Do I need to play some anime music in the back like I did yesterday, or I don't know. Um, and for folks interested in the philosophy stuff that I did, so I've been reading a few short papers, like excerpts from um, really quality philosophy writings. Yesterday, I I read a paper from a philosophy professor named Raymond Martin, who writes a an essay on the meaning of life called "A Fast Car and a Good Woman." If you're interested, check that out. As well, I've read some other papers. I read a paper on the value of philosophy by Bertrand Russell, and I even read something by Plato himself. Um, one I read one of his Platonic dialogues on the trial of Socrates. Um, so again, you can check that stuff out if you actually want to hear some philosophy type stuff, um, and not in the mood to talk about martial arts. But if you're here for martial arts, you're right. You're here for the right place. Um, it's late, so don't ask me to perform any martial arts right now because it's it's past midnight, so I won't be performing anything unless you drop a super chat or a super sticker. Drop a super chat or a super sticker, I will. But other than that, Zilcho. Now let me check something. Anyway, sorry, I'm back. So again, I'm gonna give it a few seconds. Asia, if you're here, do you have any questions? If any of my moderators in the group, do they have any questions? And again, I'm not taking any stuff from that doesn't pertain to what I'm talking about, unless people drop it in a super chat or super sticker or Cash App, one of those three. But I'll give it a few minutes. And again, to reiterate, so when I'm talking about McDojos, it can be defined in numerous ways, but generally, a McDojo is a place of martial arts instruction that is of very low quality. It's of low quality because the teachers don't really know much or any martial arts. Um, there's poor, um, or even if they do, or even if they are martial arts experts, um, they may not run their schools very well. Like they may not attend to the quality of the instruction, um, or they are abusive in some ways to their students, or what they teach just isn't very effective, or their their places of training are pretty much just glorified daycare centers, which is a lot of American martial arts schools, by the way. Um, so those so those are kind of what go into what most people think when they think of McDojo. As far as the term Bushido, that just refers to generally fake martial arts or martial arts that aren't very effective. And I like to make a distinction because some people call any martial art that isn't effective fake martial arts, and I don't think that's fair. Just because a martial art isn't effective doesn't mean it's fake. It just means it's not it doesn't actually teach you how to fight or defend yourself. That doesn't mean it's fake martial arts. There are a lot of quality martial arts that don't really teach you much effective fighting. However, they do become Bushido or McDojos when they pretend that they can teach you effective fighting. That's the difference. So if it's a martial arts not geared towards fighting, but they pretend that it is, then it becomes Bushido. But if it's a martial art that's not effective and they don't market themselves as such, then that's fine. If you want to go to a Tai Chi Chuan um, school and they're teaching Tai Chi Chuan or other versions of Tai Chi that out there, or say Singi or Bakwa, I Ching, um, and all these other, traditional so-called internal kung fu styles. Like if they're just teaching you for the aesthetics and the historical traditions of those arts, there's no problem with that. It's only when they try to pretend that those things are effective and say, well, yeah, you should learn this because this will put you this will make you more effective fighter in the MMA, or you should do this um and go compete kickboxing. Like no, no, or this will help you on the street. Learn how to do these, how to learn this 108 wooden dummy motion form. you learn these five animal styles, you'll be a beast on the streets. No, no. So um, if they're not doing that, then I don't have a problem with it. So does that kind of make it clear? And then, like I said, a lot of arts fall somewhere in the gray area where they can or cannot be Bushido, depending on the context. And again, that's what might the context might be what separates one school from being a McDojo. The context of how it's marketed and promoted to to potential students. Like I said, if a martial arts school for Tai Chi Chuan is just promoting itself as traditional Chinese martial arts and a way and a sense of and a form of exercise for people who are less agile, cool. But then if another school to teach Tai Chi Chuan is teaching it as a form of self defense, then no, very bad. So it, that should kind of clear things up. Um, but again, I'm not getting very much feedback from the chat room. So, chat, do you guys have any relevant questions? Relevant questions on anything martial arts related. And it doesn't have to be something I mentioned. It could be something else. If you want to ask me about any martial arts style, you trust me, any martial arts style you've heard of, probably know. I've probably read something about or know something about. You know. Um, but like I said, I'm not going to break all that stuff down because I literally did that last week in two two separate videos. Like I said, I have the video last week that tell where I break down the history of martial arts and say it's largely a lie. Like a lot of these styles have a lot of nonsense behind them, like a lot of like false claims behind them in their so-called historicity of their arts. So that was one video, and that was pretty long. Pause. And the second video I did was how to spot a McDojo, and again I break that down pretty thoroughly, in a really informal way. I break that down, so I don't want to retread that unless someone asks me an actual question about it. But I'm not going to like give a whole I'm not going to give us another lecture on that stuff that I talked about last time. Uh, except to I'll give one example where I went into a, a lot about karate, and ba- for a good reason. Like karate and or taekwondo is usually most people's found like found those usually a lot of people's like entry level into martial arts, because usually most of the McDojos um, people will go to at like a any strip mall in American suburbia would usually have a karate school or a taekwondo school. Although nowadays it's getting replaced more by MMA gyms and Brazilian jiu-jitsu dojos. Those have started to slowly replace a lot of the karate and taekwondo dojos of the past. But for people from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, mostly it was karate and taekwondo. And so I went into a lot of length about karate, how um, so many of the claims made about karate are just BS or misinformation. Like some of it may be true but misleading info. Other others is just completely false. Um, some of it I even tied to Cobra Kai if people watch that show or watch the original Karate Kid movies. So I went into a lot of stuff like talking about how karate was not, I repeat, was not developed as a way for Okinawan peasants to fight against Japanese samurai. Like that was just completely false. Um, I even went into like some of the specific techniques and stuff they do, and so I went into a lot of stuff like that. And so for people who didn't catch those videos, um, and yes, my shirts do have some holes in it. These are my work. This is my workout shirt. But anyway, this didn't used to be my workout shirt, but I've used it so much that it's now just my workout shirt. Unfortunately, because I used to really like this Star Wars t-shirt. But anyway, off that tangent. So I mean, so if folks have specific questions about any style like karate, taekwondo, any like I know a little bit of something about almost any martial art, almost every. Moonlit says, remember when people used to say my hands are certified lethal weapons, so they can't use them? Celebs and McDojo people be lying about that. Oh, I wish I had mentioned that back in that video last week, Moonlit, because that's true. So, all right, guys. So it used to be a given myth. There was a long-standing myth in the martial arts community that if you started learning martial arts, particularly if you had a black belt, that you couldn't get into a fight because now your hands will be registered as deadly weapons, and you will catch you will catch an assault charge with with a deadly weapon, and that's just BS. So different states and local ordinances have different rules on you know the different degrees of physical assault or whatever. But you do not, first of all, you do not have to be in martial arts to catch an assault charge with a deadly weapon. That's number one. Two, even if even if you do get into a fight and defend yourself using martial arts, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to catch an assault with a deadly weapon because you're a martial arts expert. In most places, if the if the if the violence that you meted out is proportional to the danger in which you were in by most self-defense laws in most states, it will be justified. Like a lot, there are some places that don't have so-called self-defense laws on the books, but most prosecutors will look at it, and again, if the violence you met out is proportional to the danger in which you were in, usually it is considered justified, the self-defense. So it doesn't matter whether you are a martial arts expert or you're just someone who can throw hands. If someone tries to attack you and you give them a righteous punch in the face and they call it quits and you walk away, most of the time that is justified. Okay. What is not justified is, someone starts yelling in your face and then you do a flying knee on them. They fall down and then you put them in the kimura and break their freaking elbow and go Steven Seagal on them. You were catching a charge. You're going to jail. That's not justified. Okay. It's saying you don't know martial arts. You can just throw hands. Someone calls you a itch and pushes you. Then all of a sudden you just mollywop them, right? And then you want to go Conor McGregor in Roadhouse. Uh, Again, you may not even have any martial arts background, but you're catching that charge because that's not proportional to the danger in which you found yourself. Now, if you are watching this from another country, I cannot speak on those laws, self-defense laws in other countries. I can only talk about here in America. And again, check with your state. But like I said, in America, so this is only for folks in America because I know I have people watching from the UK and Canada. Those are the two biggest outside of the US. Those are the two biggest places I have viewership, and I have a few people in the Philippines too. But they watch so infrequently. I don't know when my friends from the Philippines are watching. So in any case, folks in the UK, Canada, maybe one or two in Germany. Shout out to Miss Needle, um, who's now well, we got something cooking. Oh, we'll save that for later. But anyway, for folks outside the country, let your laws be your guide for how you defend yourself. I will say this though, no matter what country you find yourself in, it is a human. It is. It may not be a. It may not be a legal right, but it is your human right to defend yourself. No one can tell you that you should just let someone unalive you or beat you to a bloody pulp to avoid litigation or to avoid possible prosecution because you refuse to allow someone to unalive you or beat you to the point where you're going to be in the ICU because if they don't kill you, them hospital bills will. So yeah, there is a saying, and it is overused in America. But even if it is overused, there's some merit to it where a lot of people will say, "I'd rather be let's say I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried out by 6." So no matter what country you're in, I'll say this: it is your human right to defend yourself. On Abra on Abram Matlow's um, hierarchy of needs, one of them is security, food, shelter, security. Defending yourself falls within that most basic need in security. So it is your human right to be able to defend yourself, regardless of what authoritarian country you find yourself in. And I won't mention any by name, but there are a lot of nonsensical European countries out there that don't respect people's right to defend themselves. So, um, but here in the states, generally, in most states in the United States, and I'm assuming the U.S. territories as well, if if you met out violence in proportion to the danger in which you were in, it's justified. more or less. Um, Amon says rear naked choke holds and arm bars are fine if only in self defense. Uh, I don't know. So a rear naked choke is I wouldn't, I'm not going to recommend rear naked chokes to people who don't have a significant background in wrestling or jujitsu, because it only takes a few seconds to have someone pass out in a rear naked choke. But if you hold it too long, you can unalive someone. That was the issue with the guy, the Marine last year that defended all those people in the New York City train, while some junky, lunatic, homeless guy threatened all of them. And people try to say it was a race issue. People try to say, oh well, he was bigger and stronger than the lunatic. Well, here's the thing: if 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 you're a lunatic, well, if you're threatening a whole bunch of people on the train, shouldn't you be worried about your size? Like, why should he be worried about his size when he's not the one provoking an attack? The lunatic, if he's malnourished and skinny, but he's threatening to hurt people on that train and saying, I don't give a damn if you call the cops or I go to jail, I'm gonna get my money one way or another. Why should the guy defending everyone else on the train care? Besides that, for this guy to be so weak, it took several guys to hold him down. And so another thing, it wasn't a race issue because the guys that were helping the Marine, so the Marine was white, but the guys that were helping Marines was two brothers, two black guys. They were helping him restrain the guy. And yes, he held that rear naked choke too long, which resulted in that guy's death. But also, that guy wasn't healthy in the first place. But again, I'm not going to blame that on the defender, because if the guy wasn't healthy and a lunatic, he shouldn't have attacked in the first goddamn place. On top of that, it's not like he needed to be out in the streets in the first place. He absconded from his halfway home and had arrest warrants for him. He New York City allowed that man to be convicted multiply of assaults and just let him walk in and out of jail, in and out of jail, including assaults on women. So don't make this guy out to be like he was some innocent little junkie who just needed some help. If the ninja needed some help, he should have stayed in the halfway home where he was before he absconded. But all of that is to say, because I got off the point, all that is to say that I don't recommend rear naked chokes to the average person because most people don't know how to use them effectively. It only takes a few seconds to L someone out. So unless you are actually trained in submission grappling, um, no, don't do that because you might find yourself in a similar situation where you unintentionally cost someone their life, and now you're going to be in the courtroom fighting to say that this was in self defense and you did not mean to unalive this person. So you know because of the glorification of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, everybody wants to do submission grappling. Here's the thing: a good punch to the face will end most fights. What people and if a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu sensei is honest with his students, he'll tell you the same thing, or she'll tell you the same thing. A good punch to the face will end most fights. I mean, Mike Tyson said this decades ago. He said everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. So, um, but yeah, getting back to the original issue, yes, it is the whole claim that if you once you start doing martial arts, you have to register your hands as deadly weapons is a complete myth. There's no one in the history of martial arts that had to do that. There was one sort of situation with that in Hawaii back in the day, and I don't remember all the rigmarole about it, but again, that is not common whatsoever. And again, your hands can you can be you can be charged with assault with a deadly weapon regardless of whether you know martial arts. If you beat the hell out of someone barehanded. So it depends on the situation, as with most legal contexts. Contact your lawyer. Hashtag I'm not a lawyer. um, Mula says, speaking of New York, I wanted to ask, send me a message to whom I can call to check on Officer Lumen. That being said, there's plenty of ways to hold someone down. I don't know. I think I think his I think his profile is still up. He's just not. He might just decided to move on. I mean, I'm sure he's all right. That happens frequently. There's a lot of turnover with YouTube channels and moderators and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure he's doing all right. You know, some people stop watching just because they're not interested anymore, or they have better things to do or better things to watch. Literally, like there's about a million different YouTube creators, so uh, not everyone is someone's cup of tea, or they may not any longer like their content. I've done that. I've watched people and then change my mind on them later on and stop watching their content. So, you know, um, but again, as far as holding someone down, I again that is a touchy subject because again, unless you are actually trained in submission grappling, I don't recommend trying to hold people down. First, for a lot of practical reasons. One, again, you just may not be trained in submission grappling, so not going to be very effective. Two, there are laws against restraining people that can be considered what's the word for it? I forgot the legal term for it, but holding, restraining someone against their will can be a charge against you. So I don't recommend that either. Three, trying to hold someone down is not a good idea when most people on the streets carry weapons or may be. So that's the third. All right. So I just reconnected. Sorry. So if you guys can get my reasons why you probably shouldn't try to hold someone down, let me reiterate those. So I was saying number one, these are all pragmatic reasons. One is you just don't know how to do submission grappling, so don't try it. Two is that restraining someone against their will can be a crime, so I would not do that. Three is that most people on the street, you should anticipate them carrying a weapon of some sort or having friends with them. So wouldn't do that. And four, again, is the reason I just mentioned earlier is that oftentimes a solid whop, a solid punch to the face will end most fights. Most people will just be like, this ain't worth it. They get hit hard enough in the face, they're like, it's not worth it, and they'll just back off. So that's that's a good thing. You don't have to go. You don't have to go Royce Gracie on the streets. Like it's not necessary. So, but no. So again, I don't recommend people trying to do rear naked chokes unless you actually practice them regularly in some sort of grappling um, instruction. Whether you go to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, Judo, uh, Sambo, which is Russian combat wrestling, um, or you do CSW, combat submission wrestling (CSW), or you do collegiate wrestling or um, or some other sort of professional wrestling. So if you're not in those, don't go out trying to do rear naked chokes because you've seen people do it on the UFC. You probably don't know what you're doing. And also, don't try to hold people down. That's probably not going to be good self defense. Like in most, again, since in most states, self defense laws are are um, are based on the proportionality of 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 violence meted out, um, based on the level of danger in which you find yourself, then holding someone down probably won't be justified in many cases. Usually, what would be justified is you know, hit like doing a quick punch or kick and getting the hell out of there, or someone tries to take you down and you counter the move and then you get up and get out of there. That is usually what's justified as far as self defense. And we're talking about barehanded self defense. I'm not even getting to all the nuance of self defense with weapons, whether we're talking about bladed weapons, blunted weapons, or firearms. That is a whole other different category of discussion. But I only see two people in the chat. One being my moderator. So, guys, does anyone, including Moonlit, do you guys have any other questions about Bushido or um, McDojos specifically? Like I said, I if someone wants me to go over a particular history of a martial art as well, I can go into that because, again, unfortunately there's so much misinformation, and and I'm not going to even pretend that I don't still hold some martial arts myths myself. I'm probably, as much as I try to debunk martial arts myths, I know that there's probably some that I hold and don't even, and I'm not even aware of it, because again, so much of martial arts has been propagated by people trying to promote their arts through false information or misleading information, or especially in the case of a lot of traditional Asian martial arts, there there wasn't much premium on uh, truth, because in a lot of these collectivist cultures, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of value placed on empirical evidence and on factual information. Unfortunately, empirical evidence seems to be more of an empirical evidence, and factuality seems to be more a virtue of Western society, unfortunately. And I don't want to make it seem like Eastern versus Western culture, anything like that. But but generally speaking, Western society puts more of a premium on empiricism and and on truth evaluation than in Eastern cultures, where there's more premium put on honor and integrity and tradition. So like those are obviously, all of those are virtues, but some in some societies have more priority than others in other cultures. But yeah, I wouldn't mind going, because there's probably some in my little diatribe last week on the history of martial arts. I'm pretty sure I missed a few. Actually, I know that I missed a few. And I hope I've brought up stuff that people weren't even well aware of, like martial arts they weren't even may have not even heard of before until I mentioned them, like the art of like the like the fact that Black Americans had their own martial art during slavery called knocking and kicking. Probably most people never heard of that, and I didn't even know, wasn't aware of it until like several weeks ago. Moonlit Guy says like, comment, share, and subscribe. Super chat as well. Feel free to ask questions about the topic. Trying to remember. So, what are some other countries I could have mentioned? Um, I don't know much about Sambo's origins, or I don't remember the origins, but I could have mentioned Sambo, or I did mention Capoeira. Um, did I mention? I don't think I mentioned Luta Livre, but I have mentioned Luta Livre in previous videos, but I didn't mention it in the. Did I? I may have mentioned it in that video of history of martial arts, but it was a rival to uh, Gracie Jiu Jitsu, but it never got its time to shine. Oh, you can ask about Japanese martial arts. I don't care. That's fine. I don't think I went to the history of kickboxing. I did a little bit, but I didn't go fully into it. But yeah, you can ask me anything about Japanese martial arts and any martial art. I don't care where it's from. Europe, Japan, China, Korea, America, Krypton. Yes, Kryptonians have their own martial art. And guess what? Even Bruce Wayne knows it, has mastered it because it was taught to him by Clark Kent, by Superman. That's how much of a beast Batman is. He's an expert in a martial art from a dead planet. I forgot what it's called. It starts with a K. Something. I don't remember. It's not crypto, by the way, but it starts with a K. Because a lot of people don't know. Yeah, so people don't think Superman knows martial arts. They think he just punches people. He knows martial arts. I mean, he's so powerful. That's all he needs to do is punch people, though. But you know, Superman can throw hands if he needs. It's just most people aren't on his level that he needs to throw hands. It's like, you know, it's like being, it's like I know it's like being Bruce Lee, and the only people to fight you are kittens. Like you don't have to, you don't have to exude that much uh, martial arts to defeat kittens, right? So it would be sort of the same thing. Not to mention if he, I mean, what he considers a light touch will probably destroy most people. So again, Bruce Lee versus kittens, right? So, um, what were we going to ask about Japanese martial arts? Oh, and also the Jedi do martial arts as well. I'm not just talking about their lightsaber skills. They know empty handed martial arts as well, as do the um what's, um what is Bubba Fett a their folks practice a martial art as well. Not the same one as the Jedi though. But basically, what the Jedi practice would be equivalent to what is considered classical jujitsu here. So, but I forgot the name of it. Er, uh, Urjo Jerk. I don't know. I can't remember the name of it. I have to look it up. Let me get some water while hopefully someone comes up with a question about martial arts or fake martial arts or McDojos or Bushido or history of martial arts. Watering the garden, no Diddy, but anything Asian martial arts. Huh? What do you mean? I'm getting hungry. I shouldn't be hungry this late. Probably just eat some chips. And I know that's not healthy, guys, but I run about 7 miles a day, so let me eat my chips, okay? And I'm not lying. Um, I do actually run that every day. Some people always think I'm capping. I don't cap when I talk about physical fitness and self defense. I would never lie about my skills or my capabilities. Only says, "Oh, Keanu Reeves is good at a few." Huh? No, I thought you had a question about Japanese martial arts, or you said Asian martial arts. What was there a question? As far as I know, Keanu Reeves, he's practiced Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but I'm not sure how much of it he does outside of his training for John Wick. Now, the difference is Tom Hardy, he actually legitimately trains in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and competes. Like Tom Hardy is legit. So is uh I think his name's Ed O'Neill, the guy who played uh Al Bundy. He's a legit Brazilian Jiu Jitsu guy. Um, I think what's the name? Kevin James. I think he does Brazilian Jiu Jitsu or MMA. My thoughts on the carnivore diet. Kind of outside. That's kind of outside this wheel of conversation today. Um, speaking mainly about martial arts, fake martial arts, McDojos, Bushido, history of dubious history of martial arts, stuff like that, Pat. I'm not really speaking on a carnivore diet. That's outside of my will of conversation for today. Unless you want to drop a super chat or a super sticker, then I'll be glad to answer that question. But folks, again, if you want to ask me something not about the given topic, drop it in the super chat and a super sticker, and I'll be glad to answer it. Or you can drop me a cash app with the link in the description of my channel. But if it's not, um, but if you don't if you don't have the ends to drop a super chat, then I'm gonna focus on the topic of of the given conversation, which is today talking about fake martial arts and McDojos and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of celebrities that train legit martial arts. What's his name? What's the guy saying is black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow? Uh huh. What's that rapper's name, guys? Um, used to date that little has been IG influencer model chick with the bald head. She used to hate Trump. Now that she's washed up in the game, hit the wall. She's a Trump supporter. Oh, Wiz Khalifa, yeah. Wiz Khalifa trains Muay Thai now, and I mean legit. He goes to Thailand and train in the gyms. Like he's legit skill. He has legit skills. I saw him training with Superlek and I think who else was he training? Like he was training with like big name guys like Superlek. I don't think he's competed yet. And if I'm wrong, let me know. But I don't think he's competed, but he's trained heavy. He's been heavily training. Like he's given up the weed. Dude has solid muscle on him. Pause. But um, he's given up weed. He's fully immersed in his Muay Thai training. He trains over there in I believe in Bangkok. And probably one of the gyms around the Lapini Stadium. And I thought the Fairtex gym was in Bangkok, but I saw there's one in Pattaya, unless they have one in Pattaya and in Bangkok. But yeah, there's a lot of celebrities to train martial arts and not just training like to do a movie. Like I said, I don't. I think most of Keanu Reeves training was based around his preparation for doing the John Wick movies, which is still probably significant because he's done 4 movies and he's hinted that he would be open possibly to doing the 5th one where he's not actually dead. They spoiler alert, like he dies in the 4th one, but they kind of leave it. They kind of leave some wiggle room where he may not actually be dead. Basically, so it basically means, hey, if we want to revisit this franchise and make a gazillion more bucks, we can say that he's not actually dead. No one would be mad at it if if you're in the movie theaters this summer, which I don't know what you will be watching because there's not that many great things coming out, but maybe you're watching Fantastic Four or uh, the new Superman movie, and there's a teaser trailer that shows John Wick #5. No one's gonna be mad at it, and it's gonna make a shit ton of money. So yeah, he was an ectomorph. Now he's well, yeah. So, uh, but yeah, um, we're getting some more people in the chat. So anyone got any questions? Again, not about diets, unless it's about unless unless you're unless you're asking me a diet question related to martial arts, then no, I'm not going to answer that unless it's in a super chat. But if you have nutritional questions concerning martial arts, because there are martial arts that do make certain health and nutritional claims, many of them very dubious. So if you got questions about that, I'll be glad to answer that. But if you're going to ask me a question not pertaining to my topic, pay me for my time. That's all I ask. I give out so much information for free, guys. A lot of this information is stuff that would be behind a paywall or in higher academia, the information that I give out sometimes. So all I ask is for you to pay me my time. So if I'm teaching you something you don't know, you that if I'm teaching you something new, or I'm ask or you're asking me questions to which I answer that have nothing to that have nothing to do with the what I was actually which was actually my topic, then pay me for my time. That's I think that's fair. One list is Jason Statham and Keanu are mixed MMA badasses. So I think Jason Statham had a background in like boxing or something before he started acting. Um, and I think so did uh, Qui Gon Jinn, that guy. What's his name? Qui Gon Jinn, and also the um, uh, Ra's al Ghul. Can't remember his name, but yeah, I think he has some background in boxing as well. Statham, it might have been either boxing or kickboxing. I can't remember which, but I think both he and the Ra's al Ghul actor, I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. Um, he was also in Taken, obviously. He does have some sort of previous background in like some sort of combat sport. You can often tell the actors who actually have like a background in some combat sport or martial art because you can see the proficiency when they do it on screen, and they don't need a stunt double to do it. Or even so, yeah. Um, or do you guys have Bruce Lee questions? There are a lot of there are a lot of martial arts myths surrounding Bruce Lee. So that I would include that in this as well, as far as McDojos and Bushido, because there is a lot of Bushido about Bruce Lee. For me, I will refer him as Shijo Bruce Lee out of my lineage to his martial arts. I refer to him as Shijo. Shijo basically meaning like founding father or whatever, which is a little bit different from Shigung. So I wouldn't qualify to call him Shigung. Shigung, at least in like traditional Cantonese, whatever, would be referring to someone who's like your teacher, but is the master of, but he's like the master of the art. So that would fall under the people who are like the first generation students who actually were instructed by him. So very few people are still around today that can call him Shigung, except for people like Dan and Asanto and a few others. His best friend passed away, Taki Kimura, who was one of his students and best friends. Another guy, James Lee, not related to him, was one of his best friends, and and first generation students. And a few other people, but I don't want to get into all of that. What I am going to say is, so if people don't have any questions, I'm going to call this a day because there's no point in me doing a live stream about questions on McDojos and stuff like that if people aren't going to respond. This is why only I was saying I'm not going to do I wasn't going to do a live stream on relationship advice at this time of night because there's not going to be a lot of people to respond at this time of night. Maybe on your side of the world it would be, but since most of my since most of my audience are in the United States, this is past most people's bedtime. People who are not, loony, this is past their bedtime. They're probably sleeping or bumping uglies right now. So people are gonna be live, like attending to live streams, unless again they don't have much else going on their plate or they're overseas. But most of my people outside of the country come who view my live streams, according to my analytics, are from Canada and the UK. So, um, speaking of which, I do have an I'll have a video coming up, not a live stream, but an actual pre-recorded video showing my everyday carry items. I've shown them in numerous videos, but I've done like a little video, and I'm trying to make it nice. Like I try to make it a little bit more quality and entertainment for you guys, so it won't just be sort of a little slog to watch because there's so many EDC videos around. I wanted to make mine a little bit more entertaining than what you usually may be accustomed from my previous videos. So that shall be coming up soon. I have my European whiz kid working on that for me, but I won't give too much about that away until then. Melissa says, Roger, that I'm cleaning my neighbor's garden. Pause. All right, well, yeah, I'm about to go, guys, because I'm not getting anyone's feedback or questions about martial arts. The only question I got was about diet, which had nothing to fucking to do with my fucking topic. That kind of annoyed the shit out of me. Like, if you're gonna ask me an irrelevant question, drop it in the super chat. Like, pay me for my time. So I'm gonna give it like a few more minutes. If no one has any relevant questions, I'm gonna call it a day because it's already late. So I generally don't even like being up this late. And when I have, I usually will do something that doesn't require a lot of engagement, as I did last year when I would stay up all night and try to answer every given comment that came my way. And that was usually only when it was pertaining to political stuff. Everyone had like an opinion on something, and it was impossible to get to everyone's comments. But I used to try to follow diligently through the chat and try to answer every and respond. I would read and then respond to every comment. So I may do that again, but it'll be earlier, and and it it probably won't be on politics. I think we're past that now. I mean, although there's still a lot about politics we can talk about. So that's one thing. Politics doesn't stop. So I've only steered away from politics for the past few months just because it can because it's so divisive. It can easily get you demonetized if you put out views that can be contrarian, and I'm just a contrarian. So with that being said, I'm gonna give it a minute or so. If anyone has any questions to ask me pertaining to martial arts, like McDojos, Bushido, history of martial arts, Bruce Lee, fighting, self defense, what is real, what is fake. That's the conversation. What is real, what is fake? Bushido, dojos, all this sort of stuff. And I can touch on this topic again on another day, probably at an earlier time, and see if I get some better reception on it. And if people look at my cover picture, it pictures a prominent uh, McDojo person doing his Russian, I don't know what you call it, Russian slap boxing or whatever you call it. He just looks like a fool. And for the longest time, I thought the guy was just probably mentally unstable, which is why he was doing it. But I think he, I think he knows what he. But there are some people who think that he knows he's teaching BS, like that he's deliberately teaching something that he knows is not real martial arts. So if that's the case, it is definitely Bushido and not just a person who is of low cognitive ability trying to practice martial arts, because that's what it comes off as. And to be honest, I can't tell which is which. But the guy you'll see in the cover picture for this video, and you can watch some of his. There's plenty of places online you can YouTube itself where you can go watch this guy's content. I recommend McDojo Life. You can easily go there and find the guy, and you can determine for yourself whether you think the guy is um, a con artist or if he's just mentally not all there. I really can't tell, to be honest. It could be a little bit of it could be a little bit of both. It could be a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. So I don't know, but I think he was a perfect. He gives the perfect visual representation for what I wanted to get across in this live stream, even though it unfortunately hasn't happened. Which you know, sometimes you shoot the J and you hit a brick. Other times it's all net. But hey, this was one of those days. It was a brick. I'm okay with that. It's a teaching experience. It's a teachable moment, as we say. Um, but yeah, guys. Anyone have any question whatsoever on martial arts? It doesn't. It can be Asian martial arts. It can be European martial arts. It can be African martial arts. It can be American martial arts. It can be grappling. It can be striking. It can be internal. It can be external. It can be Chinese versus Japanese versus Korean, or East Asian martial arts versus Southeast Asian martial arts. Um, Traditional versus modern. Uh, Origins of the art versus how it's currently practiced. Um, Combat sport versus traditional arts. Um, Barehanded versus weapons. Um, whether they came from military training or from the training of monks. uh, what else? Whether they make you invincible or not at all, make you easier to defeat. And yes, there are some that make you easier to defeat. Like you're better off not knowing them. Melissa says, which would you prefer, Japanese styles or Korean styles? Mm, that's hard to say because are you talking about like traditionally? It would be hard to say because, um, for one, like Bruce Lee said a long time ago, uh, a good martial art doesn't it doesn't matter where it comes from. He says that in his movie, Return of the Dragon, as it's titled here, but the original title is Way of the Dragon. But in Return of the Dragon or Way of the Dragon, whichever title you prefer, when he's working out with the Chinese guys in the restaurant, and the guy was telling him they always heard that kung fu doesn't work, so they prefer to train in karate. And the one Chinese guy says, "I only do kung fu. I don't. I'm not practicing that Japanese BS." And like Bruce's character in the movie, Tang Long, says he doesn't have anything against them learning karate. And he tells the other guy, "Don't be so dismissive of them." He said, "It doesn't matter where a martial art comes from as long as it works," which is what which was like Bruce Lee's actual own thoughts. Like he was putting that into his character. Like he doesn't care where martial art comes from as long as it works because he loved judo for one. Um, so as far as my preference, I can't say I would have a preference, especially since a lot of Korean martial arts come from other places as well. Like um, there are a few like martial arts that develop in Korea, but a lot of it comes from China or Japan as well. So one of their martial arts that I can say, I guess, originates in Korea, is Takian. Um, Takian is this kicking style. Like I think it's almost all kicking, high kicking and stuff like that. And you see Takian, it's still practiced today, by the way, but it was this royal martial art by the royal family of Korea at the time during the I guess the Joseon dynasty. I think that's usually like the dynasty most people point to as like classical classical Korea was the Joseon dynasty. So it probably dates all the way back there, but you still see roots of Takian in like Taekwondo, Tang Sodo, and Hapkido, and Kuksowan. But it's very is known for its high kicking. Um, but as far as those other Korean arts, they all have roots in Japan. Um, Tang Sodos often called Korean karate because a lot of the masters who ended up creating Tang Sodo, Hapkido, and Taekwondo were formerly Shotokan karate teachers who brought the arts to Korea and blended it with like Takian or Chinese Kung Fu, which became Tang Sodo, Hapkido, and Tang Sodo. Tang Sodo is probably out of those three arts, probably the most uh, res- resembling Japanese karate, and which is the style they practice in the Cobra Kai practice in Karate Kid. Like they practice Tang Sodo, which is more similar to Shotokan karate. And Shotokan karate was like probably like the first like modern karate Japanese style created by Gichin Funakashi, who's considered the founder of modern karate. So I I don't really have a preference since, like I said, the national sport of Korea, Taekwondo, has its roots in Japanese karate. Um, But I don't know if I, being that I'm a kid of the '90s, if I had to have a preference, I would probably say Korean just because I love Taekwondo. That was the first striking art I learned. My first art was judo. The first martial art I actually studied was judo when I was seven, 7 or 8. No, no, I'm gonna say 7 because I remember as soon as I moved to to Illinois, my parents had signed me up for a membership at the YMCA and said I had to go learn. I had to learn how to swim and I had to take martial arts and said you can either take karate or judo. And I was like, I was scared of karate, so I chose judo, not knowing that judo is more difficult than karate. But um, once I started taking it and watching movies, I was more interested in learning martial arts, especially watching all these ninja movies in the 80s. And then I think what finally broke the mold for me, where I had to learn martial arts, was when when the what was it, what was it called, the dragon, um what's Leroy, Bruce Leroy. What was that movie again, guys? I'm sorry. I know everyone's gonna be mad at me. Like, how can you not remember what movie that? But yeah, I'm sorry. I can't remember the name of that movie because it's past midnight. When that movie came out, I had to learn martial arts. I had to learn karate or taekwondo or something. Like that was the movie that was like, no, I gotta learn how to fight. Um, um, Har no, I was about to say Harlem. I was about to say Rage in Harlem. No, hey, what is it? Barry Gordon. Oh, The Last Dragon. That's it. Sorry, The Last Dragon. When The Last Dragon came out, that's when I had to learn martial arts. That was like when I was like, no, I got to learn martial arts. And when I was, unfortunately, when I was in Chicago, I never went beyond judo. Like I, I scoped out a few karate schools. Used to go through the yellow book, the phone book. Yes, we used to actually get a phone book delivered. Sit down, Gen Z and millennials. Let me tell you a little story about a little thing that was delivered to your house every 6 months called the phone book or the yellow pages, along with a white book called the white pages. The yellow pages was for business, the white pages was for residential. These used to come to your house every 6 months with updated information. And I one of the it, for some reason I used to get a lot of um, joy out of going into the yellow pages and looking up all the different karate schools in my area. And I did that probably up until I was like 15 or 16 years old, to be honest. Like I would peruse the yellow pages looking for local martial arts schools. And so, a few times my parents took me to places, um, but I never trained in martial arts until I moved back to Maryland when I was 13 and started taking Kim's karate. It was called Kim's karate, but they were actually teaching taekwondo. Again, a reason why taekwondo and tang sodo are often called karate is because the roots of taekwondo and tang sodo go back to Shotokan karate. Melissa says, I feel that's difficult. He said, be like water, my friend. Moma says, I know we're not talking weapons, but I love Nunchaku and Bow Staff as a fan of Ninja Turtles, but tons of movies like Three Ninjas was so goofy yet fun. I hated Three Ninjas. Like, I was going to be, I thought it would be good because I was at the age of those kids in the movie, but even as a kid, I thought those movies were dorky. Like, and they haven't aged well. Like, they're unwatchable now, but even as a kid, the Three Ninjas franchise was just dorky. And at least with the first one, I was approximately their age. But as the movies went along, and I became an and I was an older teenager and a young adult, they just seemed completely ridiculous. I mean, I think Surf Ninjas was better than the Three Ninjas. Plus, I was raised being coming from the '80s when you had hard R-rated ninja movies. Seeing something goofy like the Three Ninjas was just a letdown. Even the original Ninja Turtles movie was violent for a PG-13 movie, which is why they made it so. Which is why the sequels they nerfed them so badly because a lot of parents complained about the violence and the use of like weapons in the original Ninja Turtle movie. So if you wonder why Ninja Turtles 2 and 3, you never saw Leonardo cut anyone with his katana, and you never saw Michelangelo hit anyone with his nunchuckles anymore, it's because all the parents complained about the first movie being too violent, which is why the first one is the only one worth watching, unless you want to see Go Ninja Go Ninja Go with Vanilla Ice in the second one, and that I won't blame you for. But yeah, speaking on the nunchuckle and bow staff, that was something I talked about in the history of martial arts too, where I said a lot of those karate weapons called kabuto, because again in modern karate they separated the weapon, they took the weapons out of karate in modern karate, whereas in classical Okinawan karate there was a use of weapons and there was a use of grappling and submissions in Okinawan karate. But when they modernized karate for the Japanese mainland, they took those elements out because the Japanese mainland already had styles that involve weapons and styles that involve grappling, jujitsu and kendo and aikido, um, and kyudo and all those other sorts of things. So, um, but those a lot of those Okinawan weapons, again, one of the myths was that those weapons like the nunchaku and the bow and the sai and the tanfa were like weapons based on Okinawan farming, and it had nothing to do with that. Like, most of these weapons came, most of these weapons actually migrated to Okinawa through the Philippines because the Ryukyu, the Ryukyu Islands kingdom at the time, which was consisted of the Okinawan Islands and the surrounding islands, the Ryukyu kingdom, was a trading hub throughout East Asia during in the in that time. I guess around the 19th, around somewhere I guess between the 16th and 19th century. Um, so there was a lot of cross cultural influences in karate. You had stuff coming from the Siamese kingdom of modern day Thailand. You had some of the weaponry and concepts of Filipino martial arts coming from the Philippines. Um, you had you had some of the influences of Chinese kung fu coming from southern China, specifically the Fujian province. And I think even specifically the style of kung fu, I think it was White Crane. Even though I could be wrong about that, but I know it came specifically from the Fujian province of southern China. And then, of course, some elements probably from the Japanese mainland and their own indigenous fighting known to the Okinawans, all became Okinawan Te or karate, classical Okinawan karate. Um, and karate originally meant the Chinese hand. It was later changed to the empty hand to to um, to be more politically correct to the to people from Imperial Japan that didn't want to hear karate be known as the Chinese hand. Uh, Melissa says Taekwondo is dope for balance. I mean, you're gonna learn similar skills in Shotokan karate that you would in Taekwondo. Taekwondo is a little bit more flashier for the fact that Taekwondo has a heavier emphasis on the from the so if you want a modern, well, not a traditional Korean art that has a lot of influence of Korea in it, Taekwondo is great for that because a lot of the reason why Taekwondo is known for its flashier kicks than say Tang Sodo or Hapkido is because it has a strong influence from the 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 um, the Korean martial art called Taekyon, which is known just for its kicking. Mona says they don't know about phone books or memorizing numbers like the 411 for information. He says Surf Ninjas, yeah. Which funny, Surf Ninjas also had the guy from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What's the name? Something Reyes, Ernie. So Ernie Reyes Jr., who was also in The Last Dragon as a little kid, and he even had his own TV show in the '80s for people who remember that called Sidekicks. He had his own TV show called Sidekicks. He was in The Last Dragon as the little Filipino kid. It's funny. I actually thought back then I thought he was Chinese, but whatever. Anyway, he was also in the old Conan movie, um, the second Conan movie, Conan the Destroyer. No. I'm sorry. No. As you were, he wasn't in Conan. He was in Sonya, Red Sonya. Originally, Red Sonya was going to have Conan in it, but they couldn't get the rights to Conan. Um, so in Red Sonya, Arnold just plays a character that's similar to Conan in Red Sonya. But Ernie Reyes Jr. was also in that movie. And he's Ernie Reyes Jr. because his father, Ernie Reyes Sr., was a prolific martial arts teacher back in the early 80s. Um, he used to run something I think called the East Coast Demo Team, which would highlight like Taekwondo, with like I think they taught and did demonstrations on Taekwondo. And Moon says, "Wow, I literally thought I only knew that movie." No, everyone remembers Surf Ninjas who used to watch those little goofy martial arts movies back then. Funny thing, Ernie Reyes Jr. as an adult, when he was in his 30s, he went into MMA briefly. He's older than me, so I don't think he competes anymore. He's in his 50s, but I know I'm pretty sure he still teaches. But I remember about about 12, 13 years ago, he was actually competing in MMA. I was like, I give it to him, man. He's kept it thorough. Uh, Howard says, I studied Sodokan as a straightforward Japanese style. I haven't heard of that. Shotokan. No, oh, Shotokan. So Shotokan, again, it's with a T though, not a D. That's where I was confused. Shotokan. Like I said, Shotokan was probably the first modern karate style, and it is the most with it is the most I would say it's the most popular style of Japanese karate is Shotokan. Most people when they probably I would probably say like 7 or 8 times out of 10, if someone practices Japanese karate, it's probably Shotokan because it's the most popular style to practice. Melissa has some question, Clegg. Welcome back. He said, thanks. I just dropped in. But see how you gotta see how passionate I am. I went to a whole diatribe about karate just off of a few comments. That's what I was saying. People, if they want, just ask me a question and I'll easily, you know, take the torch and run with it. Um, but if not, like I said, I can get off and go eat my chips and go to sleep. Maybe watching a little bit of Frasier or Peaky Blinders, whatever. Uh, I watched 2 seasons of the 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 Handmaid's Tale just to see because I was curious about it, especially during the election season when people were trying to say that was gonna happen to America, and I'm like, no, far from it. Especially when the book specifically doesn't take that angle. Like it wasn't like a matter of some authoritarian being elected that turns the U.S. into that dystopia. It was the 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 government is completely overthrown. But after the end of the second season, I think that was a good place to leave off. I don't want to watch 3 or 4. I think it's like 3 more seasons of it left. I don't feel like doing this. It's written by a feminist, and I'm not trying to. Nah, I'm good. But I appreciated the first 2 seasons for what it is. It is well written, well acted, and it it, it came off as it came off as believable. So, but I'm not sure if I want to invest watching 3 more seasons of it. Meanwhile, I'm almost finished with Frasier. I'm in the end of the 10th season. Got 1 season left. I'm on the second season of Peaky Blinders. I haven't progressed in Breaking Bad because the torrent site I had doesn't the files I have aren't working, so I haven't finished watching the 4th episode of the first season yet. Um, I'm rewatching Sopranos, but again, the streams aren't working in my torrent site, so I haven't gotten past the end of the 4th season yet. Rewatching the original Star Trek series. I'm on the end of the second season. What else am I watching? Still trying to get a working stream for the Godfather of Harlem. I'm on the 3rd season that aired in 2023. I can't get a working stream on that, and they just started a new season, which I think is this last one. And I wanted to watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, but again, I don't have a working torrent stream. So other than that, like I'm probably gonna watch something and eat some chips and get, unless someone has another martial arts question. And again, the given topic as far as martial arts is not me teaching you how to. I'm not. So this I want to make it clear as far as what I'm saying martial arts. This is not for me to teach anyone anything. So don't ask me to perform any skills unless you drop in some drachmas in my in my super chat. Those drachmas, that money, that moolah, that dinero. Yeah. So, um, but yeah, I'm this. So when I say about martial arts, I'm not training anyone here, not trying to teach you anything. This is just to clear up some confusion about McDojos and Bushido and false history versus and what is real versus fake martial arts, what is worth training, what is not worth training, stuff like that. Like recently, and this was a good topic too because it was just recently. I was talking to a friend earlier today. I was McDojo Life had dropped a video on his Instagram with this guy who is a coach, is a so-called kickboxing coach to celebrities, and it's patently obvious that the dude has no talent. So, and my friend was confused because he was looking at it as the student was a bad student, and I had to go kind of Miyagi on him, say no such thing as a bad student, bad teacher. I was like, the student is a reflection of the teacher. So if the student is fugazi, it's only because the teacher is fugazi. Because no teacher worth his weight in salt is going to have his student looking dusty, kicking like he's like in a ballet class. Like no. So I was like, the student isn't bad, the teacher's bad, which means that guy is full of shit. Because and it's like just look at the comments under the video, and people who are trained in combat sports are saying, no, this guy is fugazi. So I'm watching Rawhide episode 39. I I don't know what that is. Some mention Mr. Mercedes, which is a crime psychological thriller. Moon says, well, Sagat from Street Fighter is based off the trainer in Lapini. Which trainer? And is he still training? Because Street Fighter came out in like 19. Well, I don't know which. I don't know if Sagat came out in Street Fighter 2 or Street Fighter 1, but Street Fighter 2 came out in like 1991. When 1990 and 1991 Street Fighter 2 came out, because Street Fighter 1 was already out by like 89 or 88. He said he doesn't fight anymore, but trains. Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't fight anymore. I was saying I don't know what trainer he would be based off. I mean, at least unless the person doesn't have a patch over his eye, I don't know any famous Thai coach with a eye patch. I seen sometimes people wear an eye patch after a fight because of an injury, but not as someone who has a permanent eye eye damage. Anyway, I don't see any. I've been at this for an hour and no one's asking any questions, so I'm gonna call it a day because it's no. This has. I think this conversation has reached an asymptote. This which is a nerdy mathematical way of saying that it's reached a a point of diminishing returns, an asymptote. So if people ever ask what asymptote is, that's just when you graph a line that shows a point of diminishing returns where something plateaus. That's where we've gotten here. um, and I don't think as it gets later it's going to help because the only people that will probably chime in as the time gets later will just be loony people who need to go to bed on this side of the country. I mean, on this side of the world. If they come from the other side of the world, that would be different. But usually, unfortunately, people on the other side of the world don't really have, how I put it nicely, they really don't they really don't add any meaningful conversation to a chat from people from these little butt fuck countries. Sorry, I'm just gonna call it what it is. People be chiming in from parts of Africa and stuff like that, and be having nothing useful to say whatsoever to with the given topic. Like every time someone chimes in from like say some African country or from India, they'll be nice and friendly and all that, but they'll have nothing relevant to talk about on the given topic. So those will be the only people that would chime in at this time of night, and there's really no point. He said no patch, but was yes the character based off him. Okay. Ours is Raw has a 1960 TV show about cattle drives in Texas. Star Clint Eastwood. You have a good night. Thanks. Yeah, but no wonder I've never heard of it. No, I've heard the name of the movie before. I just couldn't connect it because I don't watch too many westerns. Like I'm I'm very snobbish about westerns because so many of them are just kind of dry, especially since most of them are pretty old. So unless you're talking about like the good and the bad and the ugly or Silverado, I actually went to go see that in the movies when I was a kid. Like I think that came out like '85. My friend I had back in the third grade, his family took me to go with them to go see Silverado. Um, um, Tombstone is by far my favorite western ever. That's just like badass. But um, I haven't seen too many westerns in the movies, and like I said, the ones I have been far and few between. So because most, like I said, most of the stuff that came out in the '60s, even the '70s, are just kind of dry. Like you have to really be into them. It's sort of like, yeah, I saw the Hateful Eight. That's not like a cowboy movie though. It's a western, but it's not like a. I mean, it's a Quentin Tarantino movie. It's not like a strict. So it's not really like a western. Um, it was more like a an homage to westerns, which ironically, the Hateful Eight was kind of based off of a if I'm remember correctly, a samurai film. Or am I misremembering? Is Hateful Eight not the same movie I'm thinking of with Quentin Tarantino? Anyway, uh, I'm gonna go because, like I said, uh, we reached the point of diminishing returns where no one's asking any relevant McDojo questions. So this is for the same reason I didn't want to do relationship advice at this time of night. But I'm gonna go, guys. See you later. Thanks, Moonlit. Thanks, Blackbeard. He said, "Have a good night, bro. Just got in." All right, guys. Take care.